All right, I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
And we're figuring out what happened in the last episode.
Yeah. Well, YouTube is different. I mean, there's something wrong with it. Well, not wrong with it, but it's different.
Yeah, they have an extra thing in there.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
We figured it out.
So last episode was washing a cat.
Yes.
Something about old people.
Oh, we gotta hash that out now?
Well, I don't know, man.
Yeah, something about old people having sex.
Right, old people sex.
I don't remember the context of it.
Well, we talked a lot about games.
We did.
We did not talk about politics.
I think that's more it was we didn't talk about politics.
Yeah, no politics last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about tonight?
I don't know.
More politics?
Did you get into anything?
No, not really.
Okay.
What's going on with that? Enlighten me.
All right.
So let me kick this off.
All right.
I think you might be right about Trump's, standing in the polls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay.
Why do you say that?
Well, I don't think the polls are crooked, but I'm starting to believe that there are secret polls out there that are internal, that are difficult to duplicate outside of either campaign.
Okay, so the way this...
So walk me through this.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'll tell you the things that that led me to believe that. All right, so
Okay.
remember I mentioned to you about internal polling.
Yeah, and I think it's bullshit, but it might not be.
Well, so this is what J.D. Vance had to say about it. Now, take that for what it's worth, but
Right, yeah.
Take that for what it's worth. What he was saying was, look, internal polling we don't really consider privy to release to other people, right? But what he did say is that oftentimes it will be released to members of the media, right? So
they're choosing not to publish that?
well, so what they do is they use that to sort of formulate some of the questions that they get for the candidates, right? And so what
Questions for the candidate, like during pressers or what?
Yeah, interviews, that kind of stuff for their people, right? So evidently what'll happen is journalists sort of become like the game of Chinese whispers or telephone, however you choose to say it. So what happens is one journalist will talk to this camp, they'll get this information, thanks, have a great day. They'll end up interviewing somebody else. They'll end up having that talk. And so that's the way the camps sort of share their information with each other. This is how their internal polling makes it to the other camp, and vice versa. And evidently this is a well-known thing and has been going on for a long time.
Okay.
And so that's, you talked about internal polling becoming external polling. I guess it doesn't. And I guess the reason it does that is because it's meant to be back behind the scenes for them and for you. Or basically in that case.
See, the problem that I have with that is, couldn't an independent polling group actually, test the same group?
It's a great question because what they didn't talk about was they didn't talk about the method upon which how they poll it or why it's
and
different.
They rarely do, man, which is crazy. So, well, I mean, it makes sense if you. All right, so if I owned my own internal polling group,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't share my methodology with everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
But I presume.
But it could be duplicable. So. And there are some independent pollsters out there who are starting to hey, this is all margin of error, but trending this way.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I got a little whiff of that in the last 2 days.
Yeah, there's so the big news basically is every battleground state, minus Michigan, I think, is starting to pull ahead for Trump. Put distance in between.
Well, I definitely heard that for Arizona.
Arizona is like a country mile now.
That's what I saw today.
Georgia's looking like outside of the margin. It's like at 5.
But still close. Yeah.
North Carolina, I think, is 2. And Pennsylvania is looking like 1-1. It could go either way, depending on who you ask.
Well, that's the one that she really needs in order to win.
Well, agreed. But, I mean, if she loses something like Michigan, that's all undone.
So my understanding was that Michigan was like actually trending towards Harris.
That's what they say, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But Wisconsin was not.
Wisconsin is not, and Arizona is not.
Arizona not by big time. No.
Yeah. Nevada is still a toss-up.
No, Nevada was... It was like +3 Trump. Oh, I guess you say toss-up, so within that...
Well, yeah. Within
+5, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And today they even suggested that there's a possibility that it's looking like Trump might actually be ahead in the national polling.
I did see that.
Which is crazy.
That is kind of crazy. Yeah.
Look, to be honest with you, I honestly think that there was a lot of this, there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors like going on here, and I will say that like there has to be something that's been like you pointed out before. You pointed out in like 2016. You're like, well, if this were the case, if these numbers were accurate at all, there's no way this guy wins this election.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. This is statistically impossible. So you guys are doing something wrong here.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, that's the thing is, have they corrected for that or not? I don't know, because I know that.
Well, it seems like they're like pre-leaking some of that stuff, where it's like, hey, this is what we see, and so like, come November, if it like completely goes his way,
right?
All right, so okay, we kind of saw that,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's weird, and they're talking about places where registrations haven't been read for a long time, like in Pennsylvania.
Well, and see, that's what I saw about
wild.
Nevada. It was they were actually like there in Arizona. They're scrubbing the rolls.
That is also true. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, because for a long time I was like curious, I was like, how does somebody vote in a situation like this? But I didn't realize there was that many like. If there's that many people who have like fallen off the rolls, and that many more ballots that are still out there.
Right.
Yeah. Now, it's not enough to overcome, like, the libertarian problem. So, for Trump.
All right, so here's a weird thing, right? So, okay.
That was, like, in Michigan in particular.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, because there's no way. I mean, like, I don't... Do I still, at this point, believe that there were some shenanigans going on? Yes, it's been documented. Now, the extent to which the shenanigans happened, don't know. Is it... My argument would be that there's a shit ton of votes to be counted on one day, and they should all be counted on one day. There's no reason for it not to be.
Well, and Georgia shored that up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, the other one that's tricky is Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, that one's different, though, man.
That one is going to be watched like a fucking hawk, as is Maricopa County in Arizona, where they did demonstrate that there was all sorts of fucked up shit.
Well, yeah, no, and I can attest to that through my father-in-law in some respects. But I didn't realize they hadn't scrubbed the rolls.
There's a lot of weird things. Now, again, I think...
But, here in Colorado, man, we do mail-in ballots. They're fucking fine.
Then exactly. Why should it be so complicated somewhere else?
I don't know. Yeah,
there's no reason for this to take more than one day. There's no other country on the planet that takes more than one day to do this.
Oh, that's why we should have a voting app. Yeah, still, but
no,
no, man. The races come down to a point in time where it's like it's not convention based. Like you're not trying to convince other people on this side. It's turnout based at this point in time. So,
yeah, I mean. There is some truth to that, but I mean the other component here is, in theory, if you have enough things, like let's say, for example, that there are some shenanigans going on, right? And when I say shenanigans, I'm not talking. It'd be The numbers that I saw were significant, but not like, wow, this person should have won by 100,000 votes. And
No,
they
it's
lost
very
by
marginal.
one,
Yeah.
right? So there's enough for me to say, all right, so it's enough to kind of move things around. But if I'm to take it from that perspective, I would also say I feel like there is a version of this that's probably going on both sides, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's as direct as, this thing or whatever, I feel like there's, like the ballot harvesting and stuff like that. I'm like, well, okay.
Well, see, I didn't really understand that before, but it's basically like harvesting ballots that don't actually go to somebody. Okay?
Right.
But there are people who haven't been kicked off the roll, so there's free-floating ballots out there.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. And
So, but I think that like most of the states have probably tightened that up quite a bit.
a lot of the
Well, Georgia definitely has.
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of the swing states have. Michigan has not. Michigan, they openly have not. They're one of the places that's still like, we're not going to do this. We're still going to keep RFK's name on the ballot.
Did they say that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, like I said, if there's to be some kind of like fucking around, I think there's small amounts of it on both sides, enough to generally, I would say, probably cancel each other out.
Probably.
That would be my take.
Yeah,
now, I'm
yeah.
not. All I've seen is basically evidence on one side, and that's because only one side is really investigating it. So I don't know if there's any more of this. I have no idea. But minus all that kind of shit, when they break down the polling and they look at the groups that are making big demographic shifts. I mean, there are certain things that seem like a lock, but at the same time, there are variables where it's like the Taylor Swift endorsement only moved it in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I saw that.
It's like, well,
and even then they were going back and saying it's not really an endorsement. So
that's...
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, it's just kind of like, all right, well, if she tweeted that out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't know, man.
Well, if somebody tells you specifically who to vote for, I consider that an endorsement.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well,
she said that I was going to vote this way, not you should vote that way.
But it wasn't also like every one of us has to examine our own conscience and the values.
Right? Yeah, there was none of that.
It was like I've taken that journey, and it makes sense for me to do this.
I have weighed their platforms, and this is how I decide. Yeah,
exactly.
I was like, no, I do this. It's
right, and so what it's looking like is it looks like a lot of the little fucking Oprah song and dance that she did the other day.
I didn't see that.
Didn't help, and it basically cemented everything that people already know.
No,
about
and
this.
she still has not done a full-on fight the press kind of conference.
No, she did a little puss-ass interview today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. It's just like, all right, man. So.
And she still, I mean, you have, this is the thing. You can only have so many uncontested layups, right? They can only keep feeding you the ball so many times. You eventually have to either, you have to dunk it. You have to take the one and hey, you give me the chance, I have to slam it. But no, it's this hemming and hawing and refusal to tack down on it. And I know why. The more I understand, the more
she does not want to alienate any part of her coalition. So
that ain't it. I don't even think that's it.
What's that?
Honestly, man, if she says anything in particular, right? Because here's the thing: is if you hang out on the ugly side of Twitter, there's a gang of people.
No, I'm not there.
Oh no, don't.
That's on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah, you're right.
No, if I'm gonna do that, I'd just go right to Telegram.
If you hang out at that side of Twitter that lives under the power lines, right? Right. So if you go under there, right, you have this class of people that have basically been logging, every video clip that she's made, every statement that she's made since 2005. And what she's been doing is she's been kind of tap dancing against saying something so direct that they can contradict the shit out of it with what she's been saying, right?
But that's not dumb. It's just not going to work.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, it's her only way of, like, so, like, Pennsylvania, she's doing everything that she can to basically say, well, actually, fracking is fine. But she's got,
but nobody buys that.
Exactly. She's got, like, 10 clips of saying, I'm going to put an end to fracking in my lifetime.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, so that's one of the reasons...
No, I've started to see some of the Trump ads show up, and he's finally starting to listen to some fucking people around here who are smart enough. Like, hey, like, you don't have to respond to that. You just have to put up her stuff.
Play their ad.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them... We called this weeks ago. We said
we
let them hang out with themselves at their own road.
Yeah, we totally did.
Yeah.
But... Look, man, I'm thinking that, like, just based upon the, like, amount of, like, election fatigue that's going on right now. Is that, like, and I watch a couple really good shows.
Okay.
All right. These guys are trying to figure out, like, who's still undecided and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's that many of them.
I think there's people saying they're undecided.
Right, because they want to get on fucking Twitter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So, but I think most people have their mind made up, and it really comes down to just a couple things. Either you really, really fucking dislike Donald Trump, okay, which is fine. That's legit. He's perfectly, like, capable of, like, garnering people who don't fucking like him.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But then the other side of it is like, okay, so what are you going to do? Go with a known or an unknown? Okay? And a lot of people who are like, fuck that guy, fuck him. I saw a lady the other day, and this is a great show that I watched, but she was like, I will write in my fucking dog on my ballot before I vote for him. And so that's a legit concern. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but then, you see people gyrate out there trying to, like, say, like, oh, actually, Harris is the better of these two choices. They just got no ground to stand on anymore.
It falls apart with the next question. Why?
Well, and that's my point behind this is, like, okay, so I'm starting to, like, all right, so I know you and I disagree on this, but I don't think Joe Biden did a bad job.
Do you think he did a good job?
I think he did the best job that he could.
So in the grand scheme of things, if you're going to give it an IGN score, we're talking about
7.5.
7.5?
I'll give him a 7.5.
7.5?
I'll give him a 7.5. So who's my 10? My 10 is George Herbert Walker Bush. So come on, man.
Okay, no. Actually, I got to have you walk it back then. Okay, so then let's talk about presidents in our lifetime then. Okay. So, Carter, for you, do you have enough knowledge about Carter to give him a rating?
Don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you feel comfortable giving Reagan a rating?
Sure. I'll give him an 8.
An 8. Okay, so HW is a 10?
HW is my 10.
Okay. William Jefferson Clinton?
Fuck. All right.
I almost want to break it down into...
Put all the rapey shit aside.
This is a problem.
It is a problem. But was he a bad president? No. Okay. Did he do a bad job? No. Was he a bad person? Yes. Okay. So I got to put him at about a 7.
You are going to... Okay.
I will actually give William Jefferson Clinton a 7 on a 10-point scale.
And you put Joe Biden at a 7.5.
He has much less rapey stuff. I know you've explored the dark corners of Twitter. I'm not going to hold his family against him in this case.
Okay, so but the Ashley Biden diary means nothing to you?
Well, I read the whole fucking thing, so no, it doesn't.
All right.
So,
all right.
There's some things in there that are misinterpreted. There are some things that are a little creepy. But it's not what's the legal term for this?
would you say conclusive?
It's not conclusive.
Okay, so what happens here is so the argument here is that we count convictions, not
provable,
accusations. Okay. Okay.
Actual things. So Bill Clinton's definitely gross. So, but hey, man, I mean, I remember the 90s. They were fine. So we had a good time. So, things worked out. It shipped a lot of jobs overseas. We didn't realize that at the time. It was just the way that we did things.
There were guys that said it was going to be a problem.
There were guys who said fucking Iraq was going to be a problem. And they were a fucking minority at that point in time. Same thing with Bill Clinton and NAFTA in 1994.
I understand. Well, and if you recall, what was the counter argument to, what was the tagline to the opposition to NAFTA? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, your job's going overseas.
Oh no, that was the famous one was, "Do you hear that sucking sound?"
Oh yeah, the great sucking sound of like jobs that are going to Mexico.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Anyway, whatever.
That was just trivia. I was just curious if you remember because
I do remember that. Yeah.
That was the right trying to make fetch a thing. But
bro,
yeah,
I used to listen to a fuckload more of Rush Limbaugh than you did. So. I remember the great sucking sound. It was like the whole purpose of the military is to like kill people and break their things. There was a weird imperialist bend back then. A little bit. But he was totally in like behind George, W. Bush.
Yeah.
Who is probably a 6.
He gets a 6. Okay.
I think he gets a 6. I like the guy. I think he was like stand up on a lot of things. I think he got buffaloed by a lot of people.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: is I don't think what we're doing here is I'm asking you basically to rate the term, not the man per se. Sometimes they're interconnected, right? Sometimes they're interconnected, and I would agree. Like you can't divorce the Clintonian touchy-feely cigar-y, thing going on from his presidency.
Touchy-feely cigar.
You can't. No, because that was part of the whole thing. Just like
check out my cigar case. Yeah,
exactly. Just like I don't think you can divorce the crap.
All right. So if I'm going to go completely clean on this,
rate the term. Yeah, rate the
term. Yeah, Clinton's a 6.5. So
I still don't have a problem putting him at a 7.
Okay,
I'll give you a 7. Okay.
Yeah, George W. Bush is probably a 5. So
wow, he goes down even more. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're taking all that moral shit out of it, then okay. I mean, he was like, what did he do? I mean, you and I both worked in education. He did NCLB. So yeah, and that was balls. So I mean, we got a tax cut out of him, and we got a shitload of war. So was he able to actually tamp down those wars? No. They got worse.
Patrick.
And he did that.
As a matter of fact, it's under his administration that this little farce known as the Patriot Act is still in play.
Oh, yeah. And, well, okay. I'm not going to pin that on him, though. So, that was us. We fucking wanted that.
Listen, man. Okay. Are we basically saying that you get everything that happens in that term? Like, if it happens under your watch, are you responsible for it?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's how you respond to it.
It's how you respond to it. Okay. So, all right. Well, so we'll march forward. And so, ultimately that's the question is, how did he respond to 9/11?
I give him a 5.
There you go.
I give him a 5. I'd give him an 8 if he had stopped at Afghanistan. So, that's fine. So, we could have a 20-year war in Afghanistan and actually bag Obama, not Obama, Osama,
Just Bin Laden, that's fine.
Yeah, I know Bin Laden. Yeah, we'll just... okay, fine. Those things, they were in the works.
Sure.
Yeah. Going into Iraq, doing all that stuff, yes, we were all fucking for it at the time because it made perfect fucking sense. Like Saddam Hussein was still in power.
Yep.
Daddy Bush done him wrong, and so why wouldn't he actually try and hit us back? Blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. That all makes sense. He'd get a 7 or an 8 if he actually stood up to us and said, like, whoa. Let's follow the evidence here. But no, he was like, no, fucking, let's go finish the job. And that was the thing. Let's finish the job.
Right.
So,
He followed the people, not the evidence.
He followed the people, not the evidence. And he put Colin Powell up to a position, where he absolutely fucking, like, let that guy hang out to dry. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
That's not good.
That's what puts you in 5 territory.
That's what puts me in 5 to 6 territory.
5 to 6. Okay. Well,
right.
Why don't you split the middle? 5.5.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll take 5.5.
So IGN rates.
Well, fuck those. I wouldn't write them for those guys.
No. Okay. Well, we're just using that 10-point scale.
Yeah. Okay.
And here's the thing: we're using the whole scale. We're not using 7 to 10 on a 10-point scale for our president.
Yeah.
So, all right. So moving on to Barack Obama.
I love the guy, but he gets a 4. He didn't change shit.
Okay, hold on. If we were still keeping personality in play, would I have to push that number up?
I'd push him up to an 8.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's great, man. He's a fantastic human being, so he can speak well. And he turned to, like, the entire deep state, which everybody thinks he's associated with, but he told him to fuck off. And he did so with authority. So, but ultimately, like, look at his presidency, man. We got lukewarm healthcare reform.
Yeah.
So we got lukewarm tax reform.
Yes.
Okay. We got slightly warmer terrorist policy.
Did any of those wars end under his reign?
None. 0.
Did he not promise to put an end to that on day one?
And he did not do any of those things.
Yes. Did he push?
In fact, he made more. So yes.
Right. This. Did he drone the ever-living shit out of people with impunity?
By a magnitude of order, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So if that's the case, so then we flipped that around, and then we go to Donald Trump 1.
He gets a 5.
Right down the middle.
Right down the middle.
Okay.
He gets a 5. He was an improvement. So, but the guy just isn't serious about anything at all.
You know what my problem with his term was?
What?
He didn't do anything. He
didn't do shit. He got like fucking corporate America a humongous tax break because fucking Paul Ryan put him up to it. So he got completely played by those guys. But to his credit, he actually turned around and said, "What the fuck did you guys do for me?" Nothing.
It's a fair question.
So,
All right. Now, I will say that when you look at that stuff and you look at the economic conditions, I would argue that most of them were better.
Totally better.
And especially the one that the
But he might have been right in the trend. So
that's sort of the thing. That's why I think that 5 is not too hard. And when it comes down to it, the big question, in the same way that I would say, how did George Bush respond to 9/11, would be, how did Donald Trump respond to COVID?
George W. Bush?
No, HW. Or,
yeah, W.
W.
Yeah.
How did he respond to 9/11?
He handled it well.
And so my turnaround would be the only...
He fucked up the rebound, but yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. And so then the flip question is, so there was an incident that happened under Trump's watch. At the end, how did he respond to COVID?
I thought he did a really good job.
That's my one question is, sometimes you have dick all going on, and then you get to the last part, and...
like Operation, what was it?
Warp Speed.
Warp Speed, stuff like that, and everybody's like, vaccines and stuff. But, hey, man, he put them in a position and in a place where, like, okay, so it'll be okay. But the big jump in inflation did occur on his watch. So it really did. If you go back,
it started.
Right.
Basically,
but that's when you stop it. So
I got
he didn't get in front of the microphone and say like, "Hey, fuckers, you're gonna have toilet paper. Chill the fuck out," kind of thing. So because he didn't realize what was really going on, and that's on him. So at that point in time, So I'm not going to give him too much credit for that. And then, of course, like the 2020 election was like really kind of like whack. But he did not go into office with as much shit going on as Biden did.
Not even close.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
No, not even close. As a matter of fact, that would have been all that. Okay, so here's the thing: is you're right. There's this thing where you can see, like, all right, so if you're in electronics class or whatever, right, and if the soldering iron is hot, right, I think you know. Okay,
yeah, I know where you're going.
And you're like, okay, well, all right, well, I'm done soldering. You set it over here, and you can see that it's sitting on the cord, right? Now the thing is, it didn't blow up under his watch.
No, but you
can
would.
Sit there, you can smell that the rubber is starting to stink.
It's like, what is that?
So
there's a little bit more alkali in my air.
It's like thick and oily in here. Yeah, it's weird. So yeah, you're right, because the thing is, the responsible thing at that point is like, all right, well, actually, I have to take this off here before it bursts. So if it bursts under the next guy's watch, but it would have burst under yours had you actually won.
One? Yeah,
I don't know. See, that's the thing is I will say that
there's no way to know that.
I will say that the love affair with lockdowns that happened under the Biden show, right? That continued under the Biden show, that wanted to basically.
They did, but they were localized.
But this is the shit that was putting small businesses out of business. This is where
that's fair.
When we see that dip in when we see that dip in employment, like this is all in that same scab, and you're like, all right, so if we pulled this airplane out of there faster, right? Got it. And I will say this, okay, the things are. Biden is the one that was saying, federal workers must be vaccinated. He's the one that was.
He was.
I mean, a lot of this shit has been sued to, like, soldiers are back in
the Navy's
wrongfully terminated, this kind of stuff.
Like
so that was fucking ridiculous.
I get that, but like, I don't know if I would have made a different policy decision at the time without actually knowing. Like, okay, so fine, it's basically innocuous once you chew through enough old people.
That's...
well,
there were two.
Somebody had to take the hit there,
yes.
And so, like, I'm going to give Biden like a little bit of credit, at that point in time for taking the hit. So, and if he did a little bit of overreach on some of these policies, all right, man, I don't know if I would have done different. So, in a situation like that,
you would have, because you supported our governor.
Well, he just figured it out faster. Okay, so, but like 6 months faster. Okay, I don't know if that's enough of a margin for me to actually make a decision one way or the other. So...
But you know that was the right way to handle it. And people were handling it the right way.
I do now. So, but back then, I don't know. So, and it was a really odd turnover on downs. Right there.
All right.
So it really was.
All right.
And so everybody's kind of scratching their head, looking at the game and saying, like, well, what would you do different? Well, I know how it turned out, so I do it this way. It's like, okay, fine.
Come on, I'm not being a jerk. I'm not doing that to you.
I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying that there's like a confluence of like weird shit that was going on at a certain point in time.
Okay.
With that, the election, the COVID,
January 6th.
Yeah, inflation, all that shit.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because this is the other part that we forgot. Because the last of the... Let's not forget that the tail end of COVID and all this stuff, right? All this crap. Let's not forget about the riots.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so you got 2020 going on and, like all this stuff in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And George Floyd and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm sorry, man. Yeah, it's just a weird turnover on downs.
Yeah.
So, but now, I mean, so I have to give Biden a little bit of credit for actually, like as far as a crisis president goes, I think he did a pretty good job. So, I mean, I can't remember a time, with maybe the exception of George W., where someone who had to face that many things coming his way. Because, like, Obama turns over to Trump, pretty smooth. Okay? He's pretty cool.
No.
All right? So, same thing, George W. Bush to Obama. Pretty smooth. Little bit of rough times there with, like, fucking 2008 and the banking crash. But it was like, here's TARP, here's this, we're going to buy GM. Okay, there were solutions to that problem. They weren't dilemmas. Does that make sense? So there were ways to fix that. So Trump to Biden, there was nothing but dilemmas. So it was like, none of these choices are good. I have to choose what's less bad. I think he did a pretty good job with that. So now, yes, some of his other shit, yeah, he made the bad call in some of those, but it was like a 45-55 call. So, because, I mean, imagine if COVID was way worse than what it actually was. So he would have made the right call. But it wasn't.
But it wasn't.
So, but, I mean, if you're in a situation like that, you're a new president, and you're getting plugged in, what are you going to do? You're going to err on the side of caution or the err on the side of, like, risk? So,
well, okay, so the only problem I have with that argument is that although he's a new president, it is not as though he hadn't served in the big house for 8 years prior.
Long time. Yes, a long time. And that's why I give him a lot of credit for some of his foreign policy shit, because that guy has sat on that fucking committee for 30 years. So, I mean, like, Trump's argument, like, if I was still in office, this wouldn't happen. I don't really buy that.
What?
So, the Ukraine thing, and then most importantly, the Israel thing. I
don't know that. Again,
no, it's unprovable.
Yeah,
it's unprovable. But if you had a situation where, like, those two things are going to happen regardless, I'd rather have someone who had actually spent that much time in foreign policy. Like, actually handling that. And
I mean, here's the thing. It's not as though I can't see your argument, right?
Yeah, okay.
There's the problem here is that I can't necessarily equate experience in this case with doing the right thing or being the right person for the job. I mean, it tracks. Don't get me wrong. The biggest problem that I see in that particular case is that unlike Trump, the thing that Trump wouldn't have in this case is Trump doesn't have to play to two sides of the aisle when it comes to the Israel conflict.
No, he does not.
He can throw his weight under one party, which he has done and will continue to do.
Well, I think we know where that one is.
Absolutely, yes. It's the
but
flag with the star on it.
I don't think Biden has actually backed away from those people either. I mean, he's the first guy who actually showed up after the 72 war. So over there, I mean, okay, Ukraine's a little bit more complicated because of Hunter Biden and stuff like that. So, but still, at the same point in time, it's not that much money. So that was involved at that point in time, and it's really convoluted and weird. Okay, I mean, I think that he was probably defaulting to more of his Russia bad because communism, kind of thing, more so than anything else.
Who?
Joe Biden.
Wait, you're saying that
his decision to actually support Ukraine in the war was more so based upon principle than it was $200,000 here and there.
No, I don't think it's necessarily money. Well, okay,
yeah, okay.
So I don't. All right, I will argue that it's not necessarily money. I will argue that that there is significant influence.
There is.
That may not necessarily be money related, but not enough to the point where you'd risk everything to say
absolutely not. That's not.
It's a little bit too petty. I don't want to say.
It's penny,
bro. Okay, here's the thing that got to me the other day was, they pointed this out and they're absolutely right. I think it was $42 billion that they set out at the beginning of this at this administration for rural internet.
Where?
Here.
Okay.
And the term is almost over, and not a single person has been connected.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now.
Where'd that money go?
That's the question.
Yeah, okay.
Right? This is the thing, is because of what's been doled out around here, right? and we talk about penny ante stuff. We look at certain things and say like 42 billion. Well, it's a drop in the bucket. But we're so far off the point where we should be saying like, well, 42 billion for no results is not something that anybody should be okay with.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because of the scale of the things that we've been dealing with, it seems small. So when we talk about the penny ante stuff with the Biden family, overseas.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing: is for you and me, we're like, this is like 5 lifetimes worth of work, right? But it's
100 lifetimes worth of work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because of the scale, it's like, well, it seems like nothing.
Right.
It's like, all right, well, I got it. But yeah, I would argue that there's more. It's almost feudal in terms of if I have my family working for you, I have power in here, and you do favors.
Yeah,
for me,
it seems like that on the surface.
Can I say it was proper? No.
Probably not. No.
There's no version of this where I can look at this and say like, in any other work environment, you'd be like, yo, man, that's a conflict.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta sort that out and figure out what's going where.
Yeah.
And to whom. I get that. The thing that I'm getting a little bit tired of is the whole argument is like, well, this is money that we should spend at home, kind of thing.
Well, you made the point where you have got to straighten some people out here. Where, would you lay it out there? What exactly is going to Ukraine from the United States? Just put it on the record, please.
Yeah. So we've sent 2 aid packages to them that are worth $80-90 billion. Okay, but it's not cash. We're not. I mean, some of it is cash.
There's some cash in there. Yes,
there is definitely some cash in there, and the cash basically goes to maintain their payrolls. All right, so they have cops, firefighters, things like that. I mean, obviously the government's in Ukraine is gonna spend all of whatever they take in terms of taxes. Whatever they, accrue in terms of interest, from their international investments, stuff like that. All right, they're going to spend that towards 155 millimeter shells.
Right.
Okay, so the way that most of it works is we basically underwrote a line of credit with them. Okay, and so all right, so just put it in simple terms, we're going to underwrite you $100 worth of munitions, whatever.
Right.
Okay. Say, all right, so you have a loan for 100 munitions. We're going to send you 85 of those munitions because we have to rotate it out of our inventory anyway. Okay. They're still on the hook for the other 15, but we just write down the other 85 because we're going to spend that money to build new ones anyway. So, it's not pallets of cash that we're dumping over there.
Right.
Right. Zelensky's wife is not buying fucking Ferraris with our money. So,
I think she's buying it with her own money.
Maybe, but where does she get that money from? And she gets it from the Ukrainian state.
Yeah.
And then we can say oh, okay, well, so since we're supporting the Ukrainian state, she can buy a fucking Ferrari with that. I don't think that any of that is true. So
even if it is, it's
inconsequential.
Minor. I mean, it's.
I mean, a fucking Ferrari is what 155 millimeter shells. Come on, man.
That's
you're talking about little tiny margins here and there, and if she's actually involved in stuff, Zelensky's done a really good job because Ukraine's one of the 3 states in the entire world that actually has a presidential system. So it's us, France, and Ukraine, okay? Zelensky does not control that budget, all right? His parliament does.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and, it's not like England where it's we got 55 people out of, 100 in the parliament so we can do whatever the fuck we want. No, that guy's directly elected, okay? So, and he's basically a champion. He's a flag waver. And so that's what he does. He goes around and he drums up support. So same thing, any American president does the same fucking thing. So
it's what any American congressman does, just on a smaller level.
Yeah, but they're the parliament at that point. So you actually have to have support to do that stuff. And so it's completely different. And so yes, basically we like underwrite their loan. They have to pay it back. All right. Now we might forgive that in the future. So
I imagine we will.
we might.
But-
We did it with Britain. We did it with France. We did it with Germany. We did it with Vietnam. So, but we waited 50 years until it was like, yeah, okay. So let's shake out the couch cushions and here you go. Kind of thing.
Tell you what, just make minimum payments for.
Exactly.
Just make minimum payments
Which is
for
the
a
thing that
while.
we're the best at. You can buy a new car in the future as long as your credit is good.
That's it. What I want to see is the effort, man. I don't want you to turn your pockets out and say like, well, I can't pay the minimum payment this month.
No, but the point is, and this is the grand strategic, like really like non any kind of like moralistic good bad, these guys dictators, these guys Democrats kind of thing, is like we've spent about $160 billion to basically wreck our number one enemy on the global stage. So you're gonna tell me that that's not cheaper than actually fighting a direct war with them? Of course it fucking is. Okay? And if you turn around and you take a look at the Chinese, of course they watch this war very carefully. And they're like, all right, so Taiwan. What would it actually cost us to take on Taiwan? We actually increased the cost of that by about tenfold over the last 2.5 years. So, okay. So that means that those guys in Taiwan are not going to get taken over. Ukraine's not going to get taken over, okay? Because every grandma, babushka over there has an RPG, a fucking drone now,
Right.
and an AK-47.
Right.
You think Putin's going to get anywhere close to closing the gap between Russia and Odessa? Absolutely not. So, he knows that. So the problem is that what has happened in this situation is we've produced a George Orwell type 1984 war, okay, where it's in his interest to keep this war going.
Right.
Okay? And he will keep it going because he cannot retain power if that war ends. So, because a whole shitload of fucking combat trained dudes are going to come home to Moscow and St. Petersburg and they're going to take a look at this and they're going to be like, you know what? Russia should be number 3 out there. So, behind the United States and behind China, Russia with its people, its education, its resources, everything, it should be number 3. It should absolutely be able to say to Europe, hey man, we're going to sell you gas and we want BMWs in return. They can't fucking do that because the Russian, the hierarchy there, especially Putin, has turned it into a fucking goddamn mafia state where the only way he can actually keep his capitals in line is to actually send them as much money as he can. And Europe has shut that off. You're like, no, man, you're not parking your yacht off Marseille at this point. We're gonna fucking take it. And so, the only way that it can actually keep power is by killing people. And it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And if we were to turn around and say, okay, fuck it, we're done with Ukraine. Okay, fine. He'd take it over. It'd turn it into his Vietnam. Okay? But that wouldn't stop him from attacking any of, Estonia. It wouldn't stop him from actually, going after, Poland or something like that. Because really when it comes down to it, the only way that dude stays in power is by keeping his troops away from Moscow. So, because if you have a peace period and you have a whole bunch of guys who come back home, this is very Roman, by the way.
I say, yeah,
this is very fucking Roman.
You're giving me the quick version. Yeah, you're.
This is very fucking Roman. There's a reason why you're not allowed to go past the fucking ring around Rome.
Right.
And he is he's not stupid, so he understands this. So that's why he's got 2 daughters. He's trying to plug him into the government. He's got 2 maybe quote unquote illegitimate sons, but bro, in 10 years we're gonna see a brand new fucking monarchy come out of Russia. If they don't go completely Red October on him, which they might, but he knows that.
Okay, here's the...
It's brutal, man.
Yeah, it is brutal.
It's brutal. It's very, like, fucking 1880s bullshit. So that we should have
no. Bro, the question
But
look, man, I asked myself this the other day, and you probably have run this through your mind several times as well, right? There are just too many things. I mean, it is almost October, right, of the end of this year. There were too many things I was looking at this year worldwide here and in different things where it was like, it is 2024. I thought we were 100 years past this.
yes. Yeah.
But I was clearly wrong.
Clearly. Yeah, me too. You know, but I mean, and so everybody talks about like, oh, we don't want Cold War. It's like, no, fuck that. We're good at Cold War. We've done it for 80 years. We're very good at it.
But I would put this to you, okay?
We're very good at it.
We won the last one, big time.
Maybe.
Oh well, no, okay.
This just might be like, you know, fucking after halftime. You never know.
No, okay. So
yeah.
Look, no, when it comes down to, all right, you got to remember. So the first things first. Okay, when you're talking about measuring the game, okay, you got to remember the first Cold War. All right, what was on the ticket when you bought it and went to the Cold War Bowl was the USA versus the USSR.
Right. Yeah.
Now, given
USSR goes into halftime down by 27 points, man. I mean,
well, that's the thing. It's not just down 27 points. You don't get to change the name of your team mid-game. You lost that game. You can start up a new one.
All right. Oh, no, we're Russia now. Oh, okay. Yeah, red, white, and blue. Got it.
Totally. I know these colors.
It's
like everything you do is a fucking knockoff. Yeah, it's no, they're more solid and vertical.
Right.
No,
yeah. We use horizontal colors now. Yeah.
So wasteful to knit each little star. So I would say Cold War #1, okay, begins versus the USSR. They lose, okay. Cold War #2, okay, as far as I'm concerned, then give it about 10 years and then it starts up with China, right?
Maybe.
And, well, because, remember, at the end of that, too, there was a lot of demilitarization. There was a lot of, nuclear disarmament there for a while.
There was.
Right? We're burning off missiles.
In the 80s,
yeah. So, I will say that game's over. But it's still the Subway series. Okay, we still have...
Oh, right, yeah.
Right? It's at least a best of 3.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, when it comes down to it, we got you the first time. Okay? We got you to tear down a wall. We got you to, all that shit crumble.
Well, it kind of fell down, but yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah.
But it's all these things are tied.
Your defense was bullshit. We ran up
exactly, yeah. It turned out that you were way over the cap. You were, you were cheating every which way. You're giving, your team, dealerships, the fucking 1980s stuff, right? So that shit falls apart. You lose the first round.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then you have that second round. Okay, everybody's got to rebuild, right? Everybody, everything looks cool. You're like,
yeah, but it's not like a completely different season. I mean, it kind of feels like it, but it might not be, because you can see other countries out there like Poland, Germany, Czechoslovakia, which is now Czech and Slovakia.
Yeah.
And everything in Yugoslavia. They're
Belarus.
Belarus. Well, yeah. Belarus is a little bit, still a little bit in the AFC East.
I don't know which team they are.
I don't know if they do,
but they're
either.
there.
Yeah, AFC East.
I don't know if they're the Jets. They kind of feel like the Jets. I don't really know.
Yeah, but China was different. And, for as much doom-mongering is out there about China, it's actually not that bad. They've got a big enough consumer market, and they've got, and the difference between, China and Russia is, China's got a party system where, a third of the country is involved in the party.
Right.
Okay, so it's not a Xi Jinping problem. And it's not even a CCP problem. It's like, okay, who's actually going to be in charge of this shit? So it's a Belichick problem, you know.
That's fine.
You know,
I'll take
whereas
it.
like
Yeah.
you know, Russia, it's like, oh no, if Brett Favre is done, this team is fucked.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like we've talked about. What is the post Elon Musk line of succession?
There is
know.
none. There's
I don't know.
none, yeah.
There's no Tim Cook at.
There's no Tim Cook.
There's no Tim Cook.
Yeah, you
at,
just have to sell the stock before he dies. You know?
I think so. Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
what's going to happen to Russia, man. I watch like way too much war porn, and way too many like military analysts out there who are like basically almost unanimously saying it's like the Russian state is going to collapse. It's going to be awful.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to have warlords in 8 different provinces who
Yeah.
all possess nuclear weapons. They're not going to use them on us. They're going to use them on each other. And Russia is going to basically be a fucking wasteland. So, because Putin has done nothing to actually build anything that outlives him.
right.
And
Right.
this whole Ukraine thing is... It's the thing that's actually going to kill him off, because Zelensky gets popped in a parking lot next week. There's a new Zelensky right behind him. Okay? There's 10,000 patriots, you know, behind him who have defended this country for the last 2 years, you know, with everything they got. You're going to tell me that, like, somebody, like, he's actually the important thing? He's not. Okay? The important thing is that you got fucking raped by your neighbor. And so everybody in your neighborhood is actually, like, invested in this fight now. So, which is completely different than what's going on in Russia. So Russia is like,
Yeah.
okay, so, you know, this is the guy who's in charge. He got us in this war. You know, we'll get out of it or not. But if he dies, which is the plan, basically. So, I mean, the war doesn't end until he keels over or someone pops him, you know. That entire country goes bananas at that point in time.
Right.
So it's not good, man. It's
Well,
a way worse outcome
okay.
than what we had planned with Gorbachev. So
100%. Okay. The
way worse.
The concern I have here, right now, in terms of basically gutting an enemy, right? You're absolutely right. The problem here is, all right, this is an ends justify the means question, and
Sure.
you answer it however you want. There's no real right or wrong answer, but hypothetically here, and again, remember, this couldn't be done to us because of where we are in the world, right? But if, say, for example, we were fighting with Canada, right?
Okay.
And Russia was supplying Canada arms, aid, money, munitions, and taking their troops and training them,
Yeah.
right? Would you consider at that point, wouldn't you say, well, actually, Russia, you're kind of war with us?
You would, but I mean, like we did that throughout the entire Cold War, because the Russians supplied North Korea, the Russians supplied North Vietnam.
Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah, we supplied Afghanistan. You know, and so we got good at this, you know, because we had mutual respect for each other at a certain level, all right? That mutual respect is kind of gonzo now. So, because, you know, Russia used to be a technocratic, competent state, okay, where there was a rational actor. And I do believe that Putin is actually a rational actor. There's no way he's going to do anything nuclear with us, because it would kill him and his children, you know, right off the bat. He's not going to do that. All right. So, but the problem is that he's leaving us very few off ramps in order to get through this thing. Because fundamentally, if his state depends upon the fact that he's got frontline troops out there on the front line rather than Moscow, okay, peace is not in his interest. So, because if peace happens, those guys come back home and they start thinking about, like, oh, well, my buddy Sergei got killed at, you know, in fucking Mariupol or whatever, or Bakhmut or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, well, I can, you know, grab a couple dozen of my dudes and we can build a new state out of this. But he's concentrated power so much, and like, there's this guy that I listen to, and he's really, really smart in terms of strategy. And he says, like, the Italians and the Sicilians in particular are really good at, like, building a mafia. Okay? Because, they understand that you can't kill off the businesses. You just have to milk the businesses a little bit. But you can't kill them off individually. Putin has killed off almost all of his fucking businesses.
Well, you also have to do things for them, too.
You have to do things for them, too. You have to give, like fucking Mario the baker a way to make a living. But if you suck everything last out of him and he's got no way to make a living and his only future is actually fighting in Ukraine, you got a fucking problem. So, and he's been talking about this for about a year and a half now. He's like, the Russian state is going to collapse and it's going to be horrifyingly bad because it's going to just be like a land grab and some people are going to get nuclear missiles out of that. They're going to use those nuclear missiles against other people who have nuclear missiles.
Well, see, therein lies the problem. Because I can point to an example and say, did we do Iraq any favors by deposing their dictator?
I think we did.
This is a tough one because
it is a tough one. It is a tough one. I think what we did right with Iraq was removing the dictator. The thing that we did wrong in Iraq was actually removing the military structure. Okay, because we knocked out all the Baathists, the guys who could actually control the military at that point in time, and then they was like, well, I'm a colonel and I have 500 guys. Well, let me go talk to Al Qaeda. So kind of thing. And so we done fucked up there on that one. But, a lot of people look at the Iraq war as, we lost that war. We didn't lose that war, man. We actually won it.
No, we didn't lose it. Well, okay.
We would. Well, I mean, if the goal was to actually replace the dictator and put it in a state that's actually somewhat amenable to the United States, okay, mission accomplished. I mean, they're not that bad. They're not as bad as if it was actually run by ISIS. That's for sure.
No, well, so, I mean, that's the thing. Is
it's
that's
not
sort
perfect, though.
It's sort of that vacuum kind of built that. I would argue. Look, when you commit to something like this, and this is if your mission. I mean, when you come in there and you're going to establish this, then you have to accept who you are at that point.
You do.
Right? And I don't want to use the term colonizer because I think it's been banned in this house. I think the sign hasn't come in.
It's right up there with reckoning.
Yeah, the sign hasn't come in that says that in this house we do not use...
Oh my God. You're going to make me piss, man.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Finish your point, then I got to go use the John.
Go use the John. All right.
So think about that a little bit because, colonizer is definitely on that list.
It is. Yeah. So I'll try and think of the. You go to the piss war, and I'll go ahead and think about the. It's like in this house we believe that colonizer is a dirty word. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the verboten terms, and I think colonizer is one of them. We also have banned... No, we haven't banned. We make fun of 15-minute cities. Walkable cities. Urban agriculture. I'm trying to remember. This is a tough one. But if we're going to talk about... when you engage in a mission like this, of this kind of magnitude, you have to understand that you will have to maintain a presence in that region for not just 10, 20, maybe even 30 years. I mean, we can look at examples of, say, even like the British. We can talk about like India and different places around the globe here, where you have to establish at that point that this is going to be a permanent presence. And by being a permanent presence, that's the only way to permanently effect change. Now, in theory, right, I guess the best case scenario would be like India, where you've stayed long enough to the point where there is a big segment of India that still reveres British culture and British rule as something as a positive, right? That's not to say, of course, that's not to say that they all do, and there are some people that see it as problematic. But listen, if you just think about the way that they speak the language, right, the way that that's been impacted, yes, they've accepted that as a positive influence on their culture. And within that same realm, right, if we were going to commit to Iraq, it couldn't be just a short-term thing. It would have to be, I mean, we're talking like British style. You have to commit to being there for 50, 60, 70 years.
Well, we were never going to turn into Vermont, though. To quote Pat Buchanan.
But if that's the case, then why be there?
I don't think the point was... So, like, a lot of people make the point of, oh, we're there for the oil, and we're there...
No, we have oil.
The point was regime change.
Yes.
We achieved that within, like, fucking 4 weeks. So the problem was that we weren't prepared to deal with the fallout of that because Iraq was, like... I mean, way more bifurcated than we thought it was. So, and some people called that. So, you know, and good on them. But ultimately... The big problem with Iraq was that by knocking off the command structure and then destroying the army underneath it, Iran was allowed to come in. So, and they're still there today. And Iran is a fucking problem. So, I mean, I've had Iranian students. They're fantastic people. So, they hate their government.
Right.
They absolutely hate their government. Yeah. You know, because their government, and like the biggest bitch like that I've heard lately is like, okay, so, you know, we have one port where we can export oil from. We get money from that oil, and they send it over to Hezbollah. So, you know, we don't spend it here, which is a legit bitch. You know?
I can't even think, like...
Yeah.
I can't even think of, like, a comparable thing to do with that in the United States. It would be like... taking that money and giving it to, like, the fucking New England militia.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, what do these guys do? It's like they launch rockets at the New York Yankees. I mean, it's...
Well, they're all in one place at one time, so yeah.
They shoot rockets at the Iron Dome over Yankee Stadium, like, every 16 days. It's like, we're selling oil for this?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. It was like, wait a minute, the fucking MTA is falling apart, man. You know? No, but that's legit, man. I hear that from, like, my students who, well, it's been a little bit of time, maybe about a year, since I had one who was from Iran, but he was like, yeah, fuck my government. So he was like, yeah, you know, like, all right, I can get stuff in Iran, and, you know, it's not a terrible life and things like that, but, you know, it could be so much better if we weren't spending so much money on these fucking Houthis, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, no, it's wacky, man. So that was, like, so I haven't been keeping up with the election too much, other than the polling stuff, but I was watching some of the international stuff going on last couple days, especially with Israel, who's getting... What is it when they're getting aggroed?
Yes, they are.
They're getting aggroed into Lebanon.
And they are turning it into a dustbin very quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look at Gaza. Gaza's still going on. Yep. I mean, they're like K to D ratio is down like below 1. At this point in time, and so it's like, well, what are you guys still doing? Are you still, you know, are we going to do this, or are you just going to wall it off? You know, I mean, at this point in time, I mean, you're not going to take it over. And the same thing is true with Russians. You know, like, they're pushing towards this city in southern Ukraine that cuts off like a corridor. And yeah, they're making advances, okay, but their KDD ratio is terrible. So, you know, I mean, you're hurting that ratio, so you're not going to win. So why do you keep doing this, man? And it's all pride, man. So.
Well, I mean, just to be honest with you, I would argue this is the nature of advancing warfare. This is the thing where I think you and I are going to see kind of World War II as kind of like, I don't know how to say this. Well, quaint, but I mean, in terms of it's the confluence upon which all, like, traditional views about warfare converge in a way that actually makes sense. Where you're like, I need this to support this to support this, but this will not work without this. The triangulation of land, sea, air, that sort of thing.
Does not work anymore. Yeah.
And yeah, because at this point, every conflict since then, like if you look at so I'm not gonna so if I look at the Korean War, right, which is I
got a weird take on this. So,
okay.
No. Go ahead, finish your point. But I got a weird take on this. So
well, it's a bizarre. It's like one of the last studies of just throwing enough dudes at something will still win.
Yeah,
but will sort of win. I mean, you divided the place in half, right?
Lose.
But man, did you? I mean, we're talking about it's like fucking like building bodies of walls. Or walls of bodies and like 300 and kicking over.
Barbarians.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, you got that going on here. But every conflict since then has just been about like number crunching, where it's like attrition is everything. Attrition is the name of the game. And the less that we can spend...
The longer you can hold out.
To cost you... We're going to cost you out.
And that's exactly what Ukraine is doing to Russia. Yeah, and I mean, like, I hope it's not true, but it seems like Gaza is doing that to Israel. Hezbollah might be in the same boat, but, I mean, like, that fucking pager attack was weird, man. So, I mean, it's brilliant. But
I was going to say, it's a stroke of genius.
It is a stroke of genius, man, but, I mean, it's I don't know how I feel about this just quite yet, but it's also like, okay, so you got a Hezbollah dude who's in a marketplace and he's got 3 kids around him, and you blow him up. That fucking sucks, man.
Yeah. The question is, will that...
How dirty are we going to get?
Well, it's a question of dirty, and then the ultimate question is will this decrease or increase the likelihood of continued actions?
Totally increase.
That's what I'm talking about. Is unless, I mean, this is the thing. This is...
The only way that Israel takes over a part of Lebanon is they got to build a fucking resort and a couple of hotels and some tennis courts near it. You know?
Just culture it out.
Well, yeah, you wait for the borders to expand. You build a little.
You're not wrong.
Okay. So, but if you blow up a whole bunch of guys and they're in the marketplace with their children, then now all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of martyrs.
Correct. Yeah.
And I mean, it might be an absolutely incredible stroke of genius in terms of like a very targeted attack towards the command structure. That command structure is going to get filled up by guys who didn't have fucking pagers. So there you go. I mean, I don't know, man. I saw that one. I was like, this is... I mean, we would have totally done that to Al-Qaeda.
100%.
100%.
This is... Okay, but this is...
So, but, like, we still fight Al-Qaeda.
Right. This is the Operation Valkyrie part of this is like that has to. Well, the thing is that has to be step one of you steamrolling the shit.
You have to figure out how to do the rest of the shit, and that means that you have to kill Goebbels, and you have to kill like Haldeman, and you have to kill Goering. And I think that like there's a Quentin Tarantino movie where he kind of nailed this. So, but, I mean, oh, man.
Because that has to be your first, like, that's the, everybody's pager explodes, everybody's in disarray, and if you are just flattening that territory 6 hours later, that's how you do it. But if you're basically just doing counter-terrorism in response to terrorism, like, why does this perpetuate? Well, I mean, I don't like to look at the real ruthless dickheads of our past and just say like, well, actually, you have to, like, this is where the term, we have to decimate the population. It's like, what does that mean? Yeah. It's like, no, that means only 1 out of 10 survives.
Right, yeah.
And then, exactly.
That pisses off the other 9, yeah.
That's the trick there.
The Romans figured that one out.
Well, the Roman, okay, so again, as like Caesar did, like the Roman thing also is like, so you're fucked. You want to be Romans?
I'll forgive my enemies.
Right. Yeah. So there's a piece of this, but I mean the whole basis of this conflict cannot be like, all right, you guys are fucked. You want to be Jews? Like we.
I gotcha.
And they say like, I would rather die
than
be Jewish. Like, well, that's why we're here.
Right, and so we got to do it again. So we need to plan a new pager attack.
And that didn't even work because if you remember, like the Muslims did that shit in Spain. They did that, in.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right.
It was like, you want to be Muslim? It's like,
Maybe.
I don't, but I will.
We'll put some like in our language. We'll pretend for a while.
This is like the question is like, all right, so you have to answer honestly. It's like, yeah. It's like, will you stay Muslim after we're gone? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to all turn Baptist. Yeah.
You sure you guys aren't going to turn super Catholic? It's like
super Catholic. It's like an upgraded Catholic.
It's like double classic. It's like double Catholic with like icing and stuff like that.
It's a little bit of socialism.
No, that's what I'm thinking. It's like the chocolate on chocolate donut. That's what I'm.
Oh right, yeah. It's got some chocolate sprinkles on it too.
Yeah.
So it's just more sugar.
I don't want to look at these guys in the past and say like the only guys that were smart were the people who eradicated entire cultures. You're like, we don't have a record of these because they're dead, right? So obviously I'm not advocating that.
Right.
So at that point I'm like, so what is the deal? How are you guys going to make this work? And to that end, like, here's my question. Is Israel doing kind of like an Orwellian thing too? Is this
they might be
always at war with?
I mean, so my understanding is that part of Israel's government under Bibi Netanyahu is a little bit ideological and a little bit like fucking kill them all, fuck them all to death kind of thing. That never works. It never really works, and it's like, how do you actually incorporate people and actually, get people at the table, put their guns down, talk about like, all right, well, you live on this side of the tracks, we live on this side of the tracks. Maybe we'll, like, you guys can come over to our stores and we'll come over there and buy your tortillas, whatever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, why can't we just be cool? And I mean, like, we got that way with Iraq after a long enough time. We definitely got that way with Vietnam. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, okay. And now you send U.S. vets over to Vietnam from the war. They're basically celebrated, I mean, that's what you want. You want to win the peace in the long run. It's like, how can we actually, like, get along together, And sometimes that takes an ass beating on one side or the other. So do I see that happen in Ukraine in the next 20 years? No. I've seen too much shit on Telegram, Jeff. It's awful. So, and Russians are terrible, terrible people when you leave them to their own devices, and they have no hope of actually returning to home with any honor.
Well, you're correct. Now, on the other side, and this is not to take away from the general awfulness and disregard for human life and dignity that Russians have. Ukrainians are just as dirty.
Bro, they live in the same neighborhood, man. I get it. I get it.
You can't fool. We went to the same school, bitch.
Right? Exactly.
Like,
so
fucking Spartan proud. Yeah, I know. But I mean, I guess the only successful, like, real subjugation that I can point to, and this is an ugly one, right, is Native Americans.
To a point, yeah.
I mean, because here's the thing. We obviously have no concern of any kind of, like, terrorist or military reprisal.
No.
Right? So, no. All right, so the problem is, number one, people are going to be like, well, isn't this kind of tragic? I'm like, well, I wasn't there.
I would actually point to Japan. So, and maybe Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, because
we let them keep way more dignity than other nations would have, I think.
Well, the Japanese in particular, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one guy that was from MacArthur who basically said, like, all right, so you defeat an enemy. You're defeated, but you're no longer an enemy.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
He did a good job on that, even though he was a
fucking psychopath.
Yeah, he was a psychopath.
Yeah. Let's not sugarcoat it.
No.
He was just having a good moment that day.
He did. He woke up well fresh. Yeah, rested and it's like,
glad that's over.
Glad that's over. Yeah. I want to go see a movie.
What is that? Is that it? Is it where it's kind of like you look at this sort of in the terms of like if you had two friends, and I don't want to use this, this is just a loose analogy. It's like you get into a fight here, right? I mean, you have France, Germany, England.
Oh, many times.
They've all squared off against each other many times, right? And so if you make that metaphor that these are basically three brothers, right? And they get in a fist fight, a really nasty fist fight.
Oh,
and some
man,
dude,
brutal ones. Yeah.
brutal ones, and like some dude, like when they're fighting, one dude like bites another dude's finger, the other dude like tries to poke his eye, right? You look at the terrible things they've done to each other, but at the end, do you have to like square up and say like, hey, you did some nasty shit. I'm not going to forget it, but we're still brothers.
Yeah,
we've got to work
fight.
this out.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I think it's a level of respect that actually like remains after the fight, because I mean, you know, the most brutal war of the Pacific, most brutal year of the Pacific War was the last one, where the Japanese fought the hardest.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we're like, yeah, we don't really want to invade Japan. Let's just nuke it. And the same thing's true in Germany, you know, where it's like, okay, so you guys did this Battle of the Bulge bullshit, we got it. So, where you have enduring animosity is like, we beat you, you know, fucking eat it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, sniff my socks.
Right.
You know,
right.
Clean my bathroom kind of thing. And that's...
Right.
And I don't really see, like, Russia and Ukraine maybe coming to it. Maybe they will, you know, but I definitely don't see... I definitely don't see Israel and Hamas doing that.
I don't think a single conflict in that region has ever come out on that kind of side.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, we have kind of like, you know, I've got enough Iraq veterans in my inner circle. We're kind of like, yeah, the Iraqis are fucking tough, or they'll say the same thing about the Kurds and stuff like this. There's a little bit of mutual respect there, you know.
But
that's different than like, you know, Israel. So like Israel's constantly seeing Hamas as like some, you know, they're like fucking vermin as far as they're concerned.
Exactly.
You can't win a war if you actually see them as that in the long run. You know, whereas us in like Japan, it was like, yeah, you guys are savages, but you're that kind of savage. You know? And so, you know, good on you. You guys can keep your emperor, but we're going to, you know, you're going to make us TVs for a while. You know? And we're going to call it good. You know, we're going to be cool, right? Yeah, we're totally cool, you know. Same thing with North Vietnam. Yeah. I mean, we were like, you guys are fucking savages. But you also recognize that we're pretty fucking savage too. So we're going to bomb 1 million of your people. You know? So we're going to be cool. So, but like that's something that's not the same with North Korea. So
not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
No.
No, they constantly see themselves as like, well, we got fucked by the Chinese. Rrr. You know, and
so the North Koreans?
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, they also see themselves as we got fucked by the Americans. We got fucked by the South Koreans. They're afraid of... Well, I don't want to say...
But there's no mutual respect there.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah,
well, no, that's not true. That's not true. The North Korean people are highly respected by the South Korean people. The actual people. The party and the government are seen as complete and total dog shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the same way, I mean, this is the thing where... Like, yeah, you take into account the things that Germany was doing. In any other light, you'd look at this and say, like, you're done. We can't be friends again. We're going to divide this place into, like, 20 different parcels. But no, you could also say, like, here's what we're going to do. Anybody that we think was tied with this regime. Now, I want you to... I'm going to emphasize the important part.
This gallows has...
The shit out of. Right. Hang the shit out of.
Yeah.
So...
And you're going to pay a lot of money to Israel. Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah. But you need to know that anybody that was tied in with your government, to what extent are we going to hang them? The shit out of them.
Shit out
yes,
of them.
And it's going to be... Everybody can watch. This is going to be a big deal, right?
Yeah, you need to walk through the camps.
Correct.
So, but once you've done that, right, you know, come on back into the fold.
Exactly, yeah, because it's like, you do that, you go ahead, you say your 20 Hail Marys, you know, once that's all done, It's like, all right. And I guess that's the same thing, is like, you can't do that in Israel and Palestine. There's no version of this where you fucking whoop them and you say, like, we understand that was just your leadership.
Yeah.
Or maybe they can't. Maybe
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
There's something there that's like way older than everything else.
It starts in year 800, yeah.
Well, even before that. Well, I mean, you can't even take it back to Islam. You can take it all the way back to like the Egyptians and shit.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
if
you can take that
back
way
to Moses,
back.
we got it.
Yeah, you can walk it all the way back to Moses, and it's just like, no, bad. You're bad.
Well, yeah.
Because you were born here on this side of the tracks rather than my side of the tracks. There's just something like really visceral about that I just don't really get, man. And I hope that Russia and Ukraine aren't going there, but it kind of feels like it. Well,
again, this is as it's been explained to me by the people in the region. It's just kind of like, these are these people. Oh, you guys! It's sort of
right, yeah.
It's there's
you
sort of
fucking
like
Mitchell people.
It is. There's a little bit of that Gillette commercial where it's like, boys will be boys.
Right.
It's like, well, does it have to be? It's like, yeah, kind of. It's like, well, because none of us.
You haven't beat it out of them yet. Yeah.
It's that same thing where they talk about, when they talk about the brain drain around the world. It's like the smart people leave, right? The smart people who could solve these problems leave. They're here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd rather go do something rather than sit here and bash your head against a wall. I get that.
I get it. I mean, to that end, I'm also going to turn around and say, like, well, so then how is Haiti ever going to fix itself?
It's not. So, man, I have a couple of Haitian students right now.
What do they have to say?
They are so fucking happy to be in the United States.
Fucking, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, he's like, no, we don't eat cats, but he's like, I'm not going back to fucking Haiti.
Oh,
yeah. So it's bananas, man.
You knew a dude from Haiti way back when, or at least he spoke Creole.
Oh no, Edmund was from Haiti.
He was from Haiti?
Yeah, he was from Haiti, and he migrated over to Miami. I mean, there's a little piece of this, like, my great grandfathers were Irish, whatever, kind of thing. He's like, but I'm American, and fuck off with that, because no, I'm not going to eat my dog, kind of thing. It's just like it. And the amazing thing is, it only takes one generation. So it's something like that. It was like, oh no, my dad had it rough, and no, I don't want anything to do with that. But like there's just certain parts of the world, man, that are just kind of fucked. So, and I mean, I empathize with them. So, but still at the same point in time, I was like, don't do that, please. And I'm not going to sit here and lord it over you like I'm the guy who has all the solutions and stuff like that. But it's like, hey man, drop that shit, come over here, get a job, buy a car, find a wife, get a dog. It's not that hard, man.
Okay, yeah. So
enjoy life, bro.
All right. Okay, there's two components to this where, as far as I'm concerned, both arguments are valid, and we don't have a good way to reconcile it. So the common argument right now is import the third world, become the third world. Right now, there is some truth to that, but it all depends.
I don't know, man. I think American culture is way more powerful than anything that anybody can bring forward.
Here's my concern, right? Is the reason that works, because remember, like this was one of Trump's great quotes from term number one was
shithole countries.
Yes, that's correct. Why don't we get people from good places and only from shithole countries? And then when it comes down to it, and I'm going to point to like migration over time. When we got our bulk of migrants from each area, they were a shithole country at that time, right?
Yeah, but
Ireland was not doing hot.
No, they were starving, Jeff. So same thing with Italy and Poland
and China and Japan and
Germany
Germany, yes, and like so when we got people, right? It's the same thing where it's like, yes, you came from a shithole place, right? The thing was, eventually, this is where where I saw this happening the other day, right? Where they talked about the Latino switch, where Latinos are coming out in Trump's side in
Best
a big
Americans
way.
There are.
That's the thing is
Best Americans
they have
there are,
now
man.
paid their debt. They are the ones who have now flipped and said, actually, we want you to shut this southern border down.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
They're the most ardent ones about that because they're like, I'm white now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even white. It's
No,
just
you're
like,
honorary white. That's the.
It's not even white, man. I mean, it's like being part of like. It's like I'm red, white, and blue. So that has nothing to do with like necessarily being white.
No, but it's part of that like that culture because again it's the same thing. Like when you look at the whites back then, are like, what do you mean Irish aren't white? What do you mean Italians aren't white? I'm like, you guys are as white as they come.
I'm not
but they
even putting
treated
white
them.
on that, man.
But
So-
ultimately, I just look at it in terms of like, all right, you've been here, you get it, right? You get it. You put in the time. We like you. You guys are awesome, right?
Your family.
Exactly.
So, yeah, your family.
Exactly. Like, and that's the thing is you have to buy into the culture that you're going to, and you have to have
You can bring a little bit of yourself.
You're absolutely supposed to, right? You're absolutely supposed to. But at the same time,
But you let people in on the highway. You open doors for people at the supermarket. You pay your taxes.
and you don't say it's like, well, no, actually, you shouldn't have to change. You shouldn't have to adjust to this place, right? The concept of like, oh well, it's a national language. It's like, yeah, I know we don't have one. All right, I know we don't.
No, that's fine.
But the fact is, it's like, but ultimately here it's like, guys, it behooves us all to leave the crappy things behind. Okay, the woman slapping, the fucking like that kind of stuff. Some of the shit from the Middle
Not put
East.
your shopping carts back.
I put it back. I mean,
Yeah, thank you,
I put it
man.
back.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. If he got on my case, I would have killed him.
Right,
But-
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, you see what I'm getting.
You leave a penny, not take a penny. Yeah, exactly.
Unless you need it.
Unless you need it.
And
but then
sometimes you need it.
if you don't and you got change, you put it
Put
in
one
there.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
exactly.
man.
And there's this sort of attitude of like, nobody should have to give up anything. Nobody should have to give up anything of their culture by coming here. It's like, the fuck they don't. Because otherwise they'll recreate what they had in that previous
It's not even that, man. You can't actually fight against American culture. So, because anything that you try and bring here that is like insular and full of preconceived notions, and especially when it comes to things around morality, like if there's a kitten who's stuck in the middle of the road, you stop your fucking car and you get it. You don't run it over.
Yes.
You don't, like, and the same thing's true with if you're at a crosswalk and there's a lady in a walker, going across it, you wait for her. It's just, it's a politeness that a lot of people from overseas have not experienced, and you can't bring that rudeness over here and, expect to actually, like, well, I mean...
And people just say, like, well, they are who they are.
Well, no, you can't do that because it's just it's like, not to be like American centric on this one, but it's just better to be nice to people,
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you see things like that. You have empathy for them. You have sympathy for individuals who are not so well off, or who can't do the things that you can do. And you live in a society now where it's like we try and take care of people along those lines. And so, like, any kind of culture that you bring in that has a little bit of a harder edge to it, and a little bit of, like, live and let die, kill or be killed, kind of thing, it just doesn't live here. It doesn't survive here. Except for in prison, but whatever.
Prison's its own place.
Prison is its own place. It's a different culture. That's where we box that shit up and sip it. Box that shit up and sip it and ship it off. But I mean, like, even then, I mean, you don't find that in women's prisons. So
you find a little bit of that.
Oh man,
it ain't
not like
nothing
men's
compared to
prison.
men's
There's
prisons.
nothing
No,
like
no,
men's
no,
prisons.
no,
So
no.
You know, so
No.
you do find a little bit of that. You find a little bit of that hard edge here and there and stuff like that. But really, when it comes down to it, man, I mean, you can go to like the most rural parts of this country. If you blow a tire out there, someone's going to stop and help you out. So, and even in the most hard-nosed cities in this country, if you had someone who really, you know, like they're in a walker and they're trying to get across the street, people still stop for them, man. You know?
Well, here's the thing. 5 people might go by. 6 person is probably going to jump in. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I would say, look,
Yeah.
oddly enough, okay, in most places, now there are some places where this is absolutely not true, right? When it comes to like certain cities or certain places within those cities, you know, everybody, we want every place to be perfect from start to finish, but there's not. There's always there's always if you look at the map of Colorado Springs or something like that, you'll find like a little like red area, you know,
Hill
where you're
Park
looking,
apartments.
yeah. You're like, what's going on with here? Is this like the no coverage area of the Verizon 5G map? It's like, no, this is.
It's like I'm out of service here, man. Fucking let me get my knives out.
Well, it's just like this is a hot spot, and so like there are a lot of places around here. I would say like in Colorado Springs, I would say that a good 75%, 80% of this place around here, if you drop your wallet, you've got a good chance of somebody bringing it back to you.
You do, yeah.
I mean, that's
really
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then other countries, hell no.
Oh no, your wallet's gone, man.
No,
in fact, you better find a payphone right now and cancel your credit cards.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And the fault will be on you. You know when it comes like,
well, why were you going? Well, yeah, why are you walking around Sao Paulo like that? You know.
exactly. It's some weird accented mother of yours is like, oh, if you don't take care of it, they take it away from you. This is your fault. Get out of my house, right? You know, there's some sort of like,
Thank you, call again.
yeah, some kind of anger with this where you're the victim for not protecting your shit. I'm like,
The bike chain theory. It's a bike chain theory, man.
I understand. Okay, so that's sort of the weird like Russian thing that I was having explained to me is like, look, they're good and horrible people all at the same time. It's like these guys are constant like getting in like fist fights with each other.
Right.
But that's just their like weird police academy kind of like family.
Get the high tower mentality.
You know what I'm talking? Because there was that one family that was always like beating up on each other like for fun. I don't.
Right.
Those weren't the Mahonies, were they? The ones. Those were the gun nuts, right?
The gun nuts?
Yeah, there was. So one family was. I think the Mahonies were the ones that were huge on like gun collecting. So they had guns everywhere in the house and like that. But I think were the Hightowers the ones that were always like hitting each other?
No,
like,
you got it backwards.
It's the other way around.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's this thing where like it's ball busting times 10. That's their culture. And ball busting gets really fucking ugly sometimes when you guys have been like punching each other for a long time. And that's just their culture.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, you don't do that here.
No.
That's something you have to check at the door. And yes,
Or you keep it in the family, you know? I mean, it's just one of those things. Yeah, but if the police show up, you got a different set of problems.
hey man, my uncle went to jail for slapping his wife around.
Yeah.
Why? Because it was cool in Korea.
Not
you
here.
don't do that
You
shit
don't do
here.
that here. Yeah.
They locked him the fuck up in Pittsburgh.
Good. Did he learn or did he go back to Korea? Yeah, you know.
Look, and that was the thing was his argument was like, but she's Korean too. I'm like,
Oh, okay, sorry, sir. Move along.
I didn't know. Okay, yeah, it's like the reservation laws. Okay, yeah, that's right. We overstepped our boundaries. So yeah, that's how it goes. Like when you gotta look at the normal, like the local stuff and say, hit my wife, yes or no. Okay, that doesn't fly here.
No.
Yeah,
No.
you have to give it up. And to me, there's certain things where, yes, there are people that are trying to make certain things normalized, where they're like, no, they don't have to shed with us. Like, yes, they do. Yes,
Yeah,
they do. You have to.
absolutely you do, you know. And that, I mean, it's just, it speaks really well, you know, to some aspects. You know, I've been, you know, like talking to some folks who are from overseas, and just, really like straight up asking him. It was like, so do you miss where you came from? And they're like, no. So it's like, here, my kids are safe. I can do this. If I get ripped off, I have these recourses, and, I don't mind paying that forward, and not doing those things that used to be normal when I was growing up. I don't miss those things, and that's, like that's the whole thing, with some of this political hoopla that's been going on lately. It's like, okay, so maybe somebody ate a cat. That person will never be able to eat a cat in that neighborhood now, at this point in time, because people are going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't do that. So you find a shelter, or if you need a chicken, Costco's got plenty, I'll go buy you one, kind of thing. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, so that's the thing that's actually important behind that. I understand that, like, okay, so a lot of these Midwestern towns that are dying, yeah, they absolutely do need immigrants. That's what they were originally populated
I agreed.
with.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and yes, you need to come through the front door. I get that. Okay, but still at the same point in time, if you take, 20,000 of them and plop them in a single, like community, and so I did some digging into this, and that's not actually the case. In that case, there are other communities that is the case. Okay. But it's one of these things. It's like, all right, so do you put your cart back? All right, so that's a good start. So do you tip your DoorDash driver, or you try and rob him? Come on, man. So, but like you spend enough time here, you start to see a lot of the benefits of this, where it's like, okay, like I shouldn't try and jack my neighbors, because I blow a tire next week, they're going to help me, and same thing's true with like even the legal system. It's like, well, just because you can get away with that,
right?
Maybe you shouldn't, right. All right, because you might be in that position down the road. And then like the biggest thing, and I've talked to students about this for years, especially those who have, come to the United States, want to come back, all right, in some respects, is like, actually, my kids have a really good future here. They have a really good future here, and I don't want to fuck that up for them. Kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, you're onto a couple of things that you're absolutely right. Number one, okay, there's 3 points I want to touch on here. First, when it comes to American politics, right? And for as scrubby and ugly as it is, okay, this is
awfully scrubby lately.
It is like this is. There's sort of a devolution to it, but I believe it will upswing. Like it doesn't. I don't think it continues this trajectory, but
it'll be fine in 6 months.
What I will argue is that, despite all of that, I generally believe that most politicians actually do want what's best for people, but they disagree on how to do it. Right?
I agree with that.
And I don't necessarily think that's true in every other place. I think that
no, man. This is my fucking factory. No. You're totally right about that. It's like, I want to murder you in all of your lineage. Yeah. That's not here. That's not true here, man.
So referendum 1, no Jews, no ever. Right?
Right, yeah.
Right.
That's not the case here, man.
But when we come down to it here, it's like, actually, we both want poor people to eat. We disagree on how that's going to happen. We get childish about what it takes to win that argument, but I think they both want...
Yeah, but we want poor people to eat. We want, like, kitties and doggies, like, who are homeless to have homes. We
want kids to feel safe. We want to have escape valves for...
We want to have escape valves for a lot of different things. We want to make sure that if you're old and retired and you have nobody else around you, we got you. I mean, this is like universal.
Yes. Yes. No. And I honestly think that's true.
So some of it is tax the fucking rich, and some of it is like invest in your 401k. I get that. But these are really, really different arguments than like the Fatah says that the best way to actually provide for our children is to murder yours. It's totally different, man.
You're right.
Yeah,
and you flip through it and you say like, no, I can show you. It's on page 991 on the Talmud right here. It says, I'm telling you, it says, It is okay to lie and deceive non-Jews. It says that.
Yeah, it says that right
okay.
Here. Yeah.
That's
the same thing. Yeah, the Quran says that these people should serve you, if not in this life, then the next, and send them on their way. Yeah.
It's like, you shouldn't get to decide that. That should not.
I get it.
So I generally think that, and again, it's people are generally doing that for their interest. But the God, you're killing me. Okay, because there was another.
It's so fucking funny.
Am I wrong?
It's not. Well, I mean, it's funny, like sad funny, not ha funny, but it's still a little bit ha funny because. You know, I mean, you just have to feel a little bit blessed to actually being born in this country and, like, growing up in its culture and, like, seeing the, like, little nuances between Democrat, Republican, you know, conservative, you know, libertarian, greenie versus, like, not.
Straight up anarchist.
There's straight up anarchists and stuff like that. And you can kind of look at those people and laugh a little bit. But then, like, when you actually interact, and you've done this a lot over the last couple of years with people who don't grow up like that, you know, and then, you know, they're like, oh, well, yeah, you know, like, I don't put cart back, you know, because the cart is mine until I release it, you know, kind of thing. It's kind of like, all right, now, you're cool, so, but does that mean that you would actually, like, kill somebody?
So, and it's funny when they don't answer you, it's like, well, and you're like, have you? Yeah. You know, it's like, I mean, it does highlight some other things. It's like, okay, I get it. You really love your family, you know, and stuff
Absolutely.
Like that.
But I'd like all your family to actually live in a place where you don't have to think like that, where you actually do have to kill a Hatfield in order to feed a McCoy. You know?
Okay, and so this is the last point I'll make on this here is, the other thing about, you know, we said American empathy before, and I think this is sort of, it's not unique to America, but I say we do this better than pretty much any other place on the planet. We're much better here about not looking down on other people for their occupation than many other places.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, like that same thing of like, a lot of that of, why are you not tipping your DoorDash guy? It's like, can you not picture being that guy? Or
yeah, a lot of them can't. Yeah, it's like you gotta put your fucking trash cans out on the street because they don't have to get off the truck and actually pick them up. They can just use the thing. But like in a lot of other cultures, like, well, no, that's his job, and it's like.
But if it were you,
but
I'm not a lowly garbage man.
But by the grace of God, you're not. Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Yeah. So like, I'm sorry. I don't remember like entering the lottery, you know, when before I was born, that determined that like your dad was a trash man and your dad was a fucking parliamentarian. You know? So you're not really entitled to anything here if you think about it that way. And here in the United States, no, man. I actually had this lesson in my class the other day. We were talking about like different international cultures and stuff like that. You know, and there's this idea of like power distance, and so like, you know, Donald Trump walks in through the door right now and extends his hand. Do you like grovel on your knees and say, "Oh, thank you for gracing my thing," or do you just, "Hey, buddy, nice to meet you"? You know,
I called John Ledger, you know, Mr. Moneybags. I mean, that's the
you did. To his face.
That's correct. And I put my arm around it.
Yeah, there you go. And so, like, but in other cultures, it's like. Basically, it's like, oh, let me exhale so you can breathe my hair. So I'm not worthy, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And so some people have trouble with that, man. But anyway.
And I know that there are some people that when they think about it, it's like, I wish I had something like that going on. You're like, no, you don't. See, here's the thing. You don't. We've had like little miniature aristocracies in this country, right?
They all get busted.
They all fall apart.
They all get busted.
They all fall apart. It's like the
Anderson Cooper is the only Rockefeller that I know right now that's still famous. You know?
And he's a pussy ass Rockefeller. There's no version of this where people are kind of like,
and he's got no children.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's no version of this where people are just like, oh, excuse me. The funniest thing, you and I have watched so many videos of this, okay? The funniest thing that you can say in one of these cop videos is, "Do you know who I am?"
Oh, like, they're the best. They're the best. He's like, "Oh, your dad's city council member, really?" You know, let me press extra hard here because now there's 6 copies of this ticket. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's like, so what I want you to know is, you see this light when it's flashing, it means I'm recording this. So if he's interested in seeing what's happening here, this will all be available, right?
In fact, I'm going to put it on TikTok. You know? Yeah, exactly.
This when they do, it's like, oh no, keep your phone on, go ahead and record this whole thing. Yeah, that
Knock
is
yourself out, kid.
That shit, like, I think there was like a little bit of that still left over in the 70s and 80s that would work for you, but ever since like mass media, like that shit is,
yeah, it does not work at all.
But I'm the cake boss. It's like, yeah,
okay, great, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's happened to so many celebrities over the last couple. It's happened to Diddy right now, and it's. Bro, you turned me on to that, and that is a rabbit hole that will pay dividends for next 3 months. Once the election is done, we are all in on that, man.
Pat,
so because if Harris loses the election, it's going to be like, well, that was this guy's fault, and he was at this Diddy party. You know? And if Trump like loses the election, it'll be like, well, yeah, Eric was there. You know?
Oh, that's who got indicted today. Yeah.
Who? Eric Trump?
No. Eric Adams.
Who? Wait a minute.
Mayor of New York.
Oh, I haven't looked into that yet. That'll be a good topic for the next discussion because, there's like a level of New York corruption there that's. Oh man, it's almost nostalgic.
There is some Tammany Hall shit going on.
Yeah, there's a little Tammany Hall shit going on there that's going to be hilarious.
And I think there's just as much going on in Chicago.
Well, we've known that for a while, ever since Lightfoot. We've kind of seen a little bit of that in there. But man, yeah, like that bald head dude who goes around and does hey, welcome to this Rust Belt kind of thing. He did a whole thing. He did a whole thing with an alderman in Chicago, and it was like, yeah, all right, so Norris gets a bad rap compared to you guys. So it's like this little corner of America was like, yeah, that's Chicago. We got it, man. Right. So yeah, but I mean,
you're like, whoa, this still happens? It's like, yeah.
It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Like, it's not. Well,
it's not, but it's kind of like it's like, oh, you guys still believe in the Confederacy? Cool.
Okay. All right, I'll just.
I'm glad I found you guys.
This is we got we've been going on this year, but I mean, it's the thing that people always forget about, like. So people always see the good looking the nice suits and the family part of The Godfather, right? But but you got to remember how many lives are dog shit as a result of this family and what they do.
Somebody did have to chop up Luca Brasi.
Yeah. That is the thing. Yeah. That is correct. And so there's this thing where you see the veneer of Chicago, and you're like, okay, but there is still some Luca Brasi going on behind the scenes in these few places, and still a little bit in New York and stuff like this. It's like, I thought we were past this, but your ass has been indicted, as your whole staff has.
It just seems like New York is way more intolerant of that stuff once it gets found out. So it's like having a new Star Wars movie come out and it fucking sucks. Everybody's like, God damn it, it fucking sucks. So and they just do nothing but write letters to George Lucas, at that point in time. Whereas Chicago, it's episode 7's not that bad.
The problem is the problem is that you can't RICO Kathleen Kennedy and the.
All right, that's okay.
All right.
You can't RICO Kathleen Kennedy. All right. We better get off here before we get too deep into that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
I'm hitting the button.
All right.
RICO.